boyfriend was cheating on me with my older sister for 6 months, and this is how I found out. So my ex and I met each other 3 years ago, and we've been basically dating ever since we knew each other. We started dating right away, and it is a red flag. And if a guy is with you and after 3 dates he asks you to be his girlfriend, run. That's a red flag. That's not possible. Like, when you fall in love, you don't fall in love after 3 dates. I've always thought this. Oh my gosh, like, he's fallen in love with me so fast. But no, it was not love. He was just desperate to have a girlfriend, apparently. I mean, our relationship moved pretty fast, and I introduced him to my family also right when he asked me to be his girlfriend. I have a big sister, and she's only 1 year older than me, and we actually look very much alike. I think she's always had this competitiveness to me because I was the younger kid, and she was always very jealous of my parents and the attention that they gave me. But when we grew up, we actually became very close, and I was her best friend. I mean, up until I knew about what happened. Now, I would never in a million years expected that this could ever happen. So I introduced them both, like I had introduced my other boyfriends to her, and they immediately clicked, and I was so happy about it because I was like, great, everybody wants their boyfriends to get along with someone who's very close to them, and my sister was my best friend, so I was super excited about that, especially because my sister usually hates everybody, so I was like, great. It started getting weird because my sister would make jokes about how crazy would it be if me and your boyfriend would get together. Like, that would be so crazy. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird, but I didn't think anything of it. Also, he used to laugh at those jokes all the time. And now looking back, how stupid could I have been? I mean, it never crossed my mind that the two people that I was the closest to, the two people that I loved the most, would ever do something like that to me, because that's actually evil. Cheating already is pretty traumatizing, but I think just losing two people like this is just heartbreaking. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to do a part 2 telling you how I found out that I was being cheated on for 6 months. My sister was having with my boyfriend. I'm gonna tell you in the next part. My boyfriend was cheating on me with my older sister for 6 months, and this is how I found out. So like I said, they were always joking, mainly my sister. She was always joking, how crazy would it be if me and your boyfriend would get together, and I was like, it wouldn't be crazy, it would be awful. Also, like, my sister thinks she's funny. She's always thought that about herself. She's like, oh, I'm the funniest person. I'm like, the funniest person wouldn't say that they're the funniest, but go off. This all happened like last week. I found this out last week, but I had been noticing that my boyfriend was getting like progressively distant. He never wanted to have, and that was really weird because he always wanted that. So I was like, there's something weird. And I think that's a warning sign if your boyfriend is very into, if he's like that and then all of a sudden he's not, red flag. Same way that my boyfriend was distancing himself from me, my sister also was. I even commented about it with my best friend. I was like, isn't it weird that it's happening with both at the same time? My best friend suggested, let's follow James, because James told me, oh, I'm gonna go play soccer with my friends. And I was like, he used to play football every Friday, and it was a Thursday. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, today is Thursday, it's not Friday. He's like, oh yeah, but they want to play today too. And I'm like, okay, weird. So this is a perfect time to follow him. So my best friend and I decided to go and wait for my boyfriend at the end of his shift. And to my surprise, he doesn't drive to go play soccer with his friends. He drives to our favorite restaurant. He pulls up at McDonald's, our favorite restaurant. No, I'm kidding. I wish it was, actually. That would be much better than to know he took her to our favorite restaurant. When we get there, I see my sister. And I was like, what a coincidence. But no, it wasn't a coincidence. They were gonna meet each other and have dinner with each other. When I saw that the way in which they said hi to each other was with a kiss, I got out of the car immediately and I just ran towards them. I didn't know who to slap first. I was crying, but I was screaming at the same time. They weren't apologetic. That's the worst part. They weren't apologetic. They both were just worried that I would make a scene. They weren't worried about how I was feeling or anything. They were just worried about the fact that I was screaming. It's like, how'd you not want me to scream? How can I possibly not be screaming? And yesterday they went Instagram official. This happened last week and they blocked me everywhere, and yesterday my best friend saw that they had gone Instagram official. So my worst nightmare is happening. I think I'm gonna actually get with her dad, so stay tuned for the next episode.
Did anyone else have that teacher that was just constantly beefing with literal 12-year-olds? Like, back in my middle school, I had a teacher that fought with a different kid every single day. First, it started out tame. She was just passive aggressive, and we were like, okay, like maybe she's going through something. But then it got gradually worse, and I think that it might have reached its peak when she actually punched a student in the face. Like one day she was speaking, and a kid accidentally burped, and she just went up. I don't know why it was her final straw with this kid, and she just whacked him in the face. And we all watched just aghast. We were like, whoa. And like everyone in that room was like, yeah, this happened. But the school, like, of course it was egregious, but they just couldn't believe it. They were like, we need further proof on this, further evidence. And luckily, they were able to get further proof of this when she shoved a student down the stairs. We just hear, hurry up, you're going too slow. And then like a ton of tumbling. And we were all like, whoa, what happened? The school actually checked the cameras and a kid got a concussion. And she couldn't lie her way out of that one.
Story time about my awful stepmother. So a little background information. I was 12 years old and in 7th grade at the time. And my dad was single and he was dating a ton of girls. But I had never met any of them until I met her. My dad must have really liked this woman because he would talk to her 24/7. It was like a teenage relationship. They were on the phone all the time. So much to the point where I knew literally everything about her before I even met her. Finally, we meet in person and we got along really well. Like she was my best friend. But she didn't keep that act up for long because that all changed whenever I met her kids. She has an older son named John, a middle child named Kai, and a younger daughter named Kin. At first they all seemed pretty chill and Kai and I got along really well. They lived about an hour away from us, so we didn't see them all the time. I ended up finding out that her kids were low-key bad as hell. One of the first incidents with my stepmom was whenever Kai was smoking and she asked me if I wanted to hit whatever she was smoking. Mind you, I was 9 years old. And of course I said no. Fast forward, the one day Kai gets caught and her and my stepmom tell my dad that it was me. I was 9 years old. Like for part 2. Part 2 about my awful stepmother. So yeah, like I was saying, my dad believed them over me, which really upset me because my dad and I used to be super close, but she would get jealous anytime that my dad and I spent any time together. She would insist that he spend all of his time with her and her kids. Like, girl, I was here first. Anyway, so fast forward to the Walmart incident. The one day we're all at Walmart and she called my dad screaming because he didn't take Kai with him, which about that, she would always compare me to Kai. She would say things like, oh, you should dress like Kai, or you should be more like Kai, or if only you were as pretty as Kai. Their family was just weird. Kai was jealous of the fact that I had a relationship with my father and my brother. Like, y'all, it was weird. Anytime that I went to sit next to my brother, she would throw a fit about it. Fast forward to the church incident. At this time, everybody had been getting along pretty well. And then the one day we all go to church and I noticed that people are staring at me. And after service, my church will always serve food. So I went to the cafeteria area and I was sitting there on my phone. And then a girl comes up to me and she's like, is it true? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, your stepmom told everybody that you slept with your brother's best friend and got pregnant. Like for part 3. Part 3 about my awful stepmother. So like I said, one of the girls who's my age came up to me while I was in the cafeteria and she's like, is it true? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, your stepmom told everybody that you slept with your brother's best friend, got pregnant, and tried to blame it on your cousin. And I look at her and I'm like, what are you talking about? So I go directly to my stepmom and I confront her and she acted clueless saying, what are you talking about? I never said such a thing. But then the girl who told me about it sent me a video of my stepmom telling her mom the whole story. So I show the video to my stepmom and she admits it finally. But then she was like, well, I was just saying it to say it. And I absolutely lost it. I slapped her in the face. My dad got pissed off at me and he kicked me out. He told my mom to come and get me and he said he never wanted to see me again. And you guys won't believe what happened after this. It wasn't like I was saved by my mother. Actually, she took my phone away from me for 10 months and my brother hates me and my dad doesn't talk to me and my stepmom still talks shit about me to all of her co-workers and pretty much everybody in that town.